So the other soft slab piece that I want you to work on will be something a little more organic and abstract. And we're going to use a paper armature. And this is a technique that you will use often in the rest of the year as you try to make more complex things. Everything has to be hollow. If things are solid, they explode in the kiln. So we have to, if we want to make a round, bulbous, large thing, if you want to make an animal, if you know anything that's going to have any volume to it, it can't be solid clay. It has to be hollow. And so slab construction is a great way to do it, but you need an armature. So I'm going to take some newsprint. I hope to get a lot of newspaper into the studio. And I'm going to sprinkle this up with an eye toward making like a ball. And I'm going to put a piece of tape. It's important that this ball of paper not be too dense. You don't want to squeeze it all really tight and make this dense. It needs to be smushy. And that is because when clay dries, as you know, it shrinks. I'm going to add another skin of crinkly clay around this paper. And let's make it even a little softer looking. Okay, so now my sphere or my ball, my newspaper ball is a little bit bigger. It's still pretty squishy, but it feels like it's going to fall apart. So I'm going to pull off a piece of tape. A trick is to pull off multiple pieces of tape and put them on the table next to you like so that when you start making your, see how it wants to open up? So if I have the tape ready, then I can just grab it and wrap it around. Well, that's holding pretty well, but I've got an extra piece of tape, so I'm going to add another one. You only need a couple pieces. Sometimes students misunderstand and they wrap the whole thing in tape. It doesn't need to be that much. Okay, I've got a squishy armature that is a sphere. So now I'm going to wrap this clay around this. And this is there's a little trick to how to do this. You should have handy your fettling knife, your needle tool. You can also use a fork. And I have these in community buckets. If you want a fork, you can use a fork, it's faster. And a slab. And some slurry or water, either one. I've got slurry here with a brush. All right, so I want this only in clay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull up my slab and wrap it around, and then I'm gonna drop this down and drop the other side down. And this is looking great, but this is a problem. Notice I've got this weird, funny fold. This is gonna happen because this thing is flat and this is round, and it's gonna fold on you. So when you get a fold like this, take your fettling knife and go up the spine of the fold until it hits your armature. And then you're gonna open it up, drop this down, and it's even a little too long. So I'm gonna cut it, drop it down, there it goes. Pull this up over. Aha, now it's wrapping nicely. The problem that you're running into here that I want to warn you about is that you're doubling the thickness of this clay. And you're going to need to overlap it a little, but you don't need all of this whole section of this ball to be double thick, because clay that's double thick could explode. So I'm going to trim it so that I have a little bit of an overlap, but not much. Now to make sure that it stays, you're scoring. And you're going to paint some water or slurry in there. And then you're going to close it back over. And then it leaves this ugly seam, but we're going to fix that later. All right, moving on. So now I've got this one over here. Let me turn this so you can see. It's exactly the same problem I had over on the other side. So I'm going to slit down the spine. I'm going to drop this in. Take a little off so it'll drop in nicely. And I didn't go all the way to the ball. There it is. And then I'm going to pull this around. So again, way too much clay. So I'll trim this away, rough this up, rough this up. It can be pretty quick and dirty, guys. Add some water or slurry, overlap, close it in. All right, I'm gonna wrap this here, so I need to make sure that that's rough. Slurry, close it in. Good. All right, now I've got all this extra clay over here. I don't need all that. So I'm gonna just see how much do I need. All right, so I think I can cut this here so it's out of my way. Okay, now I can wrap it around and see what I have here. All right, so I'm almost done with this. Push this in. All right, I've got a little fold. See the fold? Let's bisect it. Lift this up, tuck that under. Now this is gonna wrap beautifully, but way, way too much clay. I'll have a big heavy sphere. Take that away, rough it up, add some slurry or water, and close that over. Okay, I'm almost done. Yeah, that's already rough and wet, but that isn't. Good. All right, I'm gonna bring this here. I've got a fold. That's all right, let's split it. I think I can get rid of that. Good. Fold that over. That's a little more than I need. So I'm gonna trim some away. Back we go with the fork. And off we go here with some moisture. Try not to get the newspaper in the seams. Okay, I'm almost done. Stand it up. And you know what? I kind of like this opening. I'm seeing a spout. I'm seeing the body of something. So here's what I want you to do. You don't have to make a pot. Like, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna consider this like a gourd. And I am going to play around with some of my extra slab. I've ripped a piece off because a ripped edge is really cool. And I think I'll rip it thinner. And then I can got this opening here. I feel like if I did something like this, oh, I kind of like that. I'm not making anything recognizable. I'm working in an organic way to see what I can come up with in terms of a piece. There's also texture on that, and there isn't on the other, because it's the back side. This is the side that was up against that coarse canvas on the slab roller. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, right? Really textured. And the other side was on this cloth, which doesn't have a lot of tooth to it. So I like the contrast between the smooth and the texture. So I'm gonna take a pencil or a needle tool or a stick tool. I'm gonna show myself where this is going. Really carefully though, I don't want my outline to be noticed later. So I'm just gonna carefully mark what this is doing and where it lands. Okay, and then I'm gonna gently remove this and lay it down. And then I'm gonna go in with my fork. You might wanna use a needle tool if more detail or finesse is needed. The fork is a bit clumsy, but this is a pretty big area. So the fork does it really quickly for me. And then the back of this. Let's get it good and wet. This is really watery slurry. It's almost water. It's got some clay in it. All right, and I'm gonna look at my design and I see that that goes there and that goes there. Trying to get rid of the lines. I don't want to see the lines I made as a guide, and I don't want to smush the pattern that's on here. So I'm being very careful. All right. Now, if you don't like these things, you can get rid of these easily by rubbing them in and also by paddling. Paddling is done with a wooden spoon, and we also have larger paddles. I'll show you. Wooden spoon. Some of you did this when you coiled. And if you have something even bigger, you can paddle it with something, with this larger paddle. The secret to success with paddling, everybody, is to not over paddle. You don't want to whack at this thing, because if you do, you're going to stretch the clay around the paper armature. It's like a skin that's going to get saggy. The skin is going to get too big, and then your your armature is kind of floating around inside. And the reason we use both the spoon and the larger paddle is because the spoon gives you a little more finesse. So here I have a seam I don't like. You can rub it in, and you can also, paddling does an amazing job. It really does eliminate a lot of seams. And it also makes the piece more secure in its construction. All right, so now I don't have to make this a pot. I could lay this down. This could be a mouth. I'm letting things happen here. Oh, I'm seeing a fish. I'm suddenly seeing a fish. Okay, this is a fish mouth. And I've got extra slab, hooray. I'm gonna put fins. So this is an opportunity to play and to let things happen, which can be scary if you're not used to making art this way and you're one that likes to plan. This technique may cause you a little anxiety, like how do I figure out what to make? And then I need a dorsal fin, which I'm seeing right here. See that arch? All right, I'm gonna cut. No, it has to arch because it has to fit on that arch shape. Okay, and then I'm gonna add a tail. Let's see, a tail. I think I'm running out of slab, but if I round it off, yeah, I need more slab, but guess what? You're in a room with a slab roller, so. Aha, this might work, this might work. I gotta cut it to match the shape, stick it on. All right, there it is, it's starting to happen. I'm beginning to get a fish. I haven't scored it and slurried anything on. I don't like how far this is down. Let's bring this back. I'm gonna curve that a little bit. He needs eyes. So let's just try doing this. 1, 2, and then I think I'll put a second one that's smaller in there. 3, 4. These are gills. I think they should go lower. All right, and I have made a ceramic fish, a kind of a grouper looking thing. And it just happened. You don't have to plan. You can make yourself a hollow form with soft slabs and then let the clay talk to you. And maybe the first one you make doesn't work out and you're like, well, I tried this, not so great. Roll another slab, try another one. You can also make multiple armatures and little blobs of clay. You can make them any shape. That doesn't have to be a sphere. You can make it oval. You can make it whatever shape you want, wrap slabs around it. Maybe you actually have an idea when you start out. And then you make your armature, you're gonna make a cat. And so you make your armature pieces, a body, a head, right? And you deliberately head toward a design. But I am giving you artistic license. And I do this because it's very freeing, and people have different work styles. And some people are very tight and very precise and like to plan and like their pots to be, and their sculptures to be very, very slick. And other people work better when they are loose and let things happen. And so I really, as an art teacher, need to give you the opportunity to try both, so that you can develop your own personal style, and later on, when the assignments are much more open-ended, you can work in the way that best suits your own personal vision and your workflow. You might be working more gesturally and loose, and somebody else next to you might be working very precisely and very tight. And both are awesome, and both are valid. So, soft slab construction, you're gonna make that very organized, very strict roadmap of a picture, which follows all those steps, and then you're gonna use a newspaper armature to make something of your choosing, and it doesn't even have to represent something you can name, like this became a fish, but you could just make a cool, organic, hollow slab sculpture, and I would be delighted, and I hope you will be too. Thank you for watching the videos. I may actually fire this guy so you can see what happens when we add glaze.